You may have already seen our superbike comparison test. We had the Aprilia, the Ducati, and the BMW on board, but the Honda was missing from the lineup. That's why we now want to follow up and take a closer look at how a Honda, for example, compares directly to the BMW. And if you want to know that, then stay tuned. Now come the full details. By now, we have a very wide range of superbikes available from all renowned manufacturers. We have been provided with extremely potent machines, allowing us to draw meaningful comparisons. As mentioned earlier, we already did a superbike comparison test where we rode on the road and on the racetrack. But at that time, the Honda was not included. That is why we now want to properly introduce these two contenders and take a closer look at them in a direct head-to-head comparison. In terms of data, the BMW is very similar to the Honda. Generally speaking, modern superbikes barely differ anymore. At most, there are a few horsepower more or less, and the same goes for torque. There are no truly dramatic differences. However, the BMW does have a small special feature. In its engine, we have variable valve timing, which is designed to help deliver more power in the mid-range. And this is actually very noticeable in direct comparison at the top end. The Honda really pulls hard. There is serious punch at high revs. The BMW also performs very well up top, perhaps a touch more restrained than the Honda. But from low revs, the BMW performs a bit better thanks to the variable valve timing. Different cam timing can be applied to generate more drive already at low engine speeds, and that is a real advantage on the racetrack. Here in Buriram, for example, we have a very tight corner onto the start-finish straight. With the Honda, it is best taken in first gear, while with the BMW, you can also use second gear and still get solid drive out of the corner. What might not look all that different from the outside, but feels completely different, is the seating position on the bike. On the BMW, you have more of a feeling of sitting on top of the motorcycle. The center of gravity also feels noticeably higher. On the Honda, you feel more integrated into the bike. You reach the clip-ons from a slightly further back position and have a more direct connection to the motorcycle. Taller riders may feel more comfortable on the BMW as there is simply more space and freedom thanks to the higher seating position, and they will likely enjoy that more. What differs significantly between the two, however, is stability. The BMW has a very lively, agile approach in terms of handling. There is a lot of agility, but that comes at the cost of stability. Especially in fast corners and quick direction changes, you lose some front-end guidance. This slightly reduces the direct feel for the front wheel and makes the feedback less precise. Particularly for less experienced riders, it can be harder to build confidence in the front tire. In direct comparison, the Honda feels like a knife cutting through butter. The bike is extremely stable. You get very precise feedback, especially when it comes to charging hard into corners. The Honda gives you a lot of confidence and feedback from the front. And when it comes to turning into the corner, the Honda also performs exceptionally well. If you manage to keep the Honda engine in the right rev range, from around 8,000 RPM onward, the engine really starts to deliver serious power. Then you are extremely well set up with the Honda. Because of its stability, the Honda also tolerates much more agile tire choices. You can run very nimble, sharp profile tires without issues because stability is not a problem here. The BMW, on the other hand, is much more nervous in its handling. With very pointy tire profiles, you need to be careful that it does not become too twitchy, as that can further reduce confidence in the front tire. When it comes to braking, the two are very close. Both braking systems work extremely well. We have excellent deceleration on both bikes. The BMW might require slightly less hand force, but modulation is still very good. On the Honda, you need a bit more hand force, but the controllability is also very good. So overall, I would call it a draw in terms of braking. In terms of electronics, both bikes offer very balanced and comprehensive adjustment options. All the rider aids you could want are on board with both machines. They are easy to operate, perhaps slightly easier on the BMW. The BMW also offers an additional plus-minus button that allows you to adjust traction control on the fly while riding. Predefined riding modes are available on both bikes, so once again, there is not much separating them here. The suspension systems also show similarities. Both the BMW and the Honda come with electronic suspension. On the Honda, at least in the SB version, Öhlins components are used. These are electronically adjustable, but they rely on servo motors that handle what would otherwise be manual adjustments. On the BMW, a different system is used with fast-acting solenoid valves that allow very quick adjustments. In some cases, suspension sensors are also installed, so the system knows how much the suspension has compressed and can adjust damping accordingly. Both approaches have their advantages and disadvantages. The BMW system offers enormous flexibility and future potential, but it still requires significant development. You can cover a very wide range, but often have to make compromises in fine-tuning because a single damping curve must cover many scenarios. With the Öhlins electronic suspension, you often rely on very well-developed base settings from a proven portfolio with fine adjustments handled by servos or electric motors. It may not be as fast in reaction, but it is built on extremely well-developed components and decades of experience. Overall, both systems have their strengths and weaknesses. Personally, I slightly prefer the Öhlins setup, not because it is gold-colored, but because it builds on such a strong foundation of proven development and experience. And the BMW system likely represents the best long-term future solution to cover all possible scenarios. So it still gets a thumbs up, even if it may not perform quite as well in certain racetrack situations compared to the Honda SB with Öhlins components. That was a quick and dirty comparison between the two bikes. Each has its pros and cons. Saying which one is better or worse is very difficult. I think it depends heavily on what matters most to you personally. With the BMW, you get very lively, light-footed handling, but you have to accept some loss in stability. If that does not bother you, the BMW will absolutely make you happy. With the Honda, you get crystal clear precision. It runs like clockwork. The engine revs up to 15,000 RPM, delivers very high peak power, but is not quite as torque strong as the BMW in direct comparison. The seating positions are also slightly different. The best thing to do if you are deciding between the two is to sit on both bikes yourself. That will give you the best impression. So in the end, we have two extremely potent superbikes from excellent manufacturers. The nice thing is that no matter which one you choose, you are definitely not making a wrong decision. I hope I was able to make that decision a little easier for you. If so, please give me a thumbs up. I always appreciate positive feedback. And with that, it is time to say goodbye. Bye-bye and see you next time for our next comparison test.